that, then I will tell you what he said in the previous one, and then we'll discuss this paragraph. Okay? Okay. So, we start reading. Pallavi is going to read on yet another line of approach.
On yet another line of approach, the seeker meets another corresponding but in aspect distinct duality in which the Bayan character is more immediately apparent. The dynamic duality of Ishvara Shakti. On one side, he is aware of an infinite and self existent Godhead in being who contains all things in an ineffable potentiality of existence, a self of all selves, a soul of all souls, a spiritual substance of all substances, an impersonal, inexorable existence, but at the same time, an illimitable person who is here self represented in numberless personality, a master of knowledge, a master of forces, a lord of love and bliss and beauty, a single origin of the worlds, a self manifester and self creator, a cosmic spirit, a universal mind, a universal life, the conscious and living reality, supporting the appearance which we sense as unconscious inanimate matter. On the other side, he becomes aware of the same Godhead in effectuating consciousness and power put forth as a self aware force that contains and carries all within her as is charged to manifest it in universal time and space. It is evident to him that here there is one supreme infinite being represented to us in two different sides of itself, obs- obverse and reverse in relation to each other. All is either prepared or pre existent in the Godhead in being, and issues from it and is upheld by its will and presence. All is brought out, carried in movement by the Godhead in power. All becomes and acts and develops by her, and in her its individual or its cosmic purpose. It is again a duality necessary for the manifestation, creating and enabling that double current of energy which seems always necessary for the world workings, two poles of the same being, but here closer to each other and always very evidently carrying each the powers of the other in its essence and its dynamic nature. At the same time, by the fact that the two great elements of the divine mystery, the personal and the impersonal, are here fused together, the seeker of the integral truth feels in the duality of Ishvara Shakti his closeness to a more intimate and ultimate secret of the divine transcendence and the manifestation than that offered to him by any other experience.
A big para, and he is in. Before we start, and before I read the previous paragraph summary, let me tell you one thing. When you are in the, remember the three levels, it becomes very easy to understand if you think of three levels. Level one is our body, mind, life, or if you want in the universal, matter, life, and the principle of mind. Principle of matter, principle of life, and principle of mind. This is level one. We are normally in ignorance, we see the many, and we think that that is real. Then when your consciousness goes out of the body, mind, life, and you go to level two, where there are normally, according to Aurobindo, four planes. Okay? The higher mind, the illumined mind, the intuitive mind, and finally the overmind. In these planes, you experience the reality in many, many different ways. But the others philosophies, they experience only one aspect and they come out with the philosophy. Oh, Purusha and Prakriti are separate, spirit and matter are separate, because that's so convincing to them. But as you keep climbing higher and higher, as Sridhar says, the consciousness deepens, you start seeing different aspects. So, Purusha and Prakriti, or consciousness and power. In the very first experience, normally, because you can have the cosmic consciousness also. Normally, you see the physical world as unreal and you reject it. This is the most common because it is there in Buddhism, it is there in so many other philosophies. The first experience, even Sridhar's experience was that you reject the physical world because it seems to be unreal, and you are in a consciousness which is absolutely real but featureless. No color, no form, no shape. But one thing that is certain is it is absolutely real. Okay? So this is the first experience. But Srimda says that that's not the only one. When you go slightly higher, you can see both. You can see that you are in the higher consciousness, but part of you is also in the lower consciousness. Purusha and Prakriti. Consciousness and force, both are there together. Sometimes you are in the higher, sometimes you are in the lower. And when you are in the higher, the physical world has no importance. And when you are in the lower, there is no God, there is no consciousness. Okay, you are absolutely in the. This is in the beginning when you have not been able to stabilize your consciousness in the second level. But in the second level, right up to the overmind, which is a very high level of consciousness, there also you see this duality. But this duality can be of many types. It can be two things absolutely separate. Okay? When I am in one, I see the other as unreal. When I am in the lower, I see the above as non-existent. This can also happen. But then, as you keep going higher and higher, you see that the duality remains. Purusha Prakriti remains. Consciousness and force both are there. But they seem to be more and more aligned, more and more connected. Until finally, at the highest level, they are totally connected. Not connected even. They are one. There is a difference between connection and becoming one. Okay? It's not even a connection. It is absolutely one. And this is the biome duality, what he calls. Okay? But then the third level is there. And when you go to the third level, all the problems that you face, even in the spiritual planes of consciousness, get solved. And that is the supermind. Okay? So look, as far as I know, nobody has been able to stabilize their consciousness, they stabilize the consciousness permanently. But Srimda and Mother both had experiences of that, but they were often coming down into the normal world, okay? And because this is the work they have to do, so they have to come down. When they come down, those things are not there, and you are subject to again the laws of the physical world. This is what Srimda is going to describe in this paragraph. Many ways of experiencing this. That's why he's starting the paragraph with on yet another line. Okay, so now I go back to the beginning of the para, quite a big para. So before we do, I'll just read out to you what he said in the previous one so that we get the sense of continuity. Just 1 second. There is a mistake, so I want to correct it. Yeah. So what he said in the previous para is like, with the deepening consciousness means from higher mind you go to illumined mind, then you go to intuitive mind, and finally you can go to consciousness also, over mind consciousness. So he's saying, with the deepening consciousness, this disharmony, sharp dichotomy between Purusha and Prakriti, seemingly unbridgeable gulf. The sadhaka, 1 second, why is it jumping? With the deepening consciousness, just 1 second. With the deepening of consciousness, this disharmony, sharp dichotomy, seemingly unbridgeable gulf, the sadhaka realizes that this first perception of division is only a partial, relatively superficial phenomenon. Okay? Just 1 minute. It's a superficial phenomenon. But they are really connected, that's what it is. The sadhaka discovers that there is a connection between the free witness, that's the self, and the lower manifested being of body, life, and mind. In other words, he sees a clear but subtle connection, a link between Purusha and Prakriti. This allows a growing control of Purusha over Prakriti, or control of soul and self over the rigidity of habits in the body-mind life. Then the Gita sequence of Sakshi, first witness, Anumanta, permission giver, Jnata, the knower, then Bharta, you realize that you are the supporter of your body-mind life. Then you start even enjoying that, Bhokta, and finally Ishvara comes into play. unfolds and reveals itself. Purusha at first only watches impassively, then permits the action of Prakriti, whatever be its quality. It can be negative and positive. At our level, there is no negative and positive for the divine. Then he supports the activity of Prakriti, which is nature. Later, he withdraws the given permission to limited, fixed and perverse habits. Then finally, controlling his own nature, he becomes master, lord of entire nature, which seemed unconscious and mechanical action, the first experience of the self. The sadhaka sees the Purusha standing over her and being in her, guides her infallibly. He becomes master. There is a hidden guidance and governance of consciousness in nature. I have given examples of that. Plants seeking water and light, birds building nests, instinctively migrating to avoid winter. All this is consciousness in matter. All instinct of animals is nothing but consciousness standing in the background and telling the outer nature what to do. Okay? The seeker now discovers the eternal companionship of Purusha and Prakriti, the two fundamental principles of existence, Chit and Shakti. They are never separate as seemed at first sight, but always cling to each other. Okay? In fact, in Savitri says, wherever there is Purusha, there is Prakriti. Okay? There is not only he and synthesis also says that. Purusha alone holds, as in a womb, all Prakriti's myriad activities. The seed and the tree, the image of the seed and the tree. The seed contains everything that the tree can give. Prakriti. The seed is the Purusha and the Prakriti is the tree. Even in her seeming ignorant, unconscious mechanical activity, she holds in herself the permission and approval of consciousness and knowledge. Now, the previous duality of Chit and Shakti, knowledge and will, become two extreme poles, but of the same reality. The connection is established, involved in each other and playing hide and seek with each other. When separation is experienced, it ensures freedom from bondage. Now that's an interesting thing. What is it? When you feel that you are separate from the body, mind, life, naturally you are free. It allows freedom. Okay, it allows freedom from bondage to lower body, mind, life. But when unity is experienced, it ensures power and mastery, okay, over the lower manifestation of cosmos and nature. At the very height of level 2, okay, that's the spiritual planes of higher mind, element mind, intuition, and lower mind, the seeker reaches the supramental, where the two fundamental principles, Chit and Shakti, or you can use the words Purusha and Prakriti, or you can use the word knowledge and will, or you can also say all these things become one single entity. They are not two in one. They are both together. They become the biune duality, biune reality. And that's the image in all our iconography, Ardhanarishwara. You have one half is male and one half is female. All the images that you see in our iconography. The third level of the supramental gives omnipotence, which breaks all barriers, oppositions, and successfully masters all action. So the final conclusion of that previous para, the duality of Purusha and Prakriti now becomes the Purushottama, the Ishvara. So in Gita's words, the first level is Kshara, the mutable Purusha. Kshara Purusha, the mutable Purusha. You have the psychic being in you, which is the Purusha, but it is mutable, it is growing. But when you go to the second level, it is the Akshara Purusha, the immutable self. He is not moving at all. He is absolutely static. He is infinite, eternal and static. Then you become at the third level, you become the Purusha Uttama Purusha. So Kshara Purusha, level 1, Akshara Purusha, level 2, no mutability at all, immutable, calm, quiet, only watching. And the third level, the Ishvara, Purushottama. Kshara Purusha, Akshara Purusha, Uttama Purusha. So you reverse the thing and say Purushottama. The Ishvara, the soul of all souls, the master of existence. Okay. Now, with this background, we see now what he said today, what we read. Okay. On yet another line of approach, you are still in level 2, but you start seeing things in different ways, which we discussed right in the beginning. Okay. On yet another line of approach, it depends on the individual soul how he is approaching this problem. Because even in level 2, there are 3-4 levels. No? 4 levels according to Aurobindo. According to others, even more perhaps. So I am reading the para, each sentence one by one. On yet another, seeker meets another corresponding, but in aspect, distinct duality in which the biune character is more immediately apparent. So the word biune is interesting. It means two, but really one. So you see both together and you see the connection also between them. They are not really two, but you can see the two. Okay. It's like, if you want to give a very ordinary and very perhaps a hopeless image, you take an apple and put it on the table. There's only one apple. But take a knife and cut it into two, okay? And now it is two, but they are really one. You can see the whole apple. Now separate them from by 1 inch. From 1 inch. You can see that still they are two parts, and they are connected. Now if you separate them to 1 meter, now you don't see the whole apple at all, but you see the two different aspects. You move them 1 mile, then you don't see them at all together. So this is exactly what happens in the second level between Purusha and Prakriti. Depends at which how close you are seeing them. Okay, so they can be one, they can be two in one, they can be absolutely separate. Okay, so as I told you, it's a very gross image, but it helps to understand. So right in the beginning, when you go to the self, you see them totally separate. That's what it is. So the character is immediately apparent. The dynamic duality. Now note that. Dynamic duality means the power also is there. And that is Ishvara Shakti. This is the third level. Okay. The perfect experience is at the third level, but you can get glimpses of it in the second level also. That's what Srindra is describing. On one side, he is aware of an infinite and self-existent Godhead in being who contains all things in an ineffable potentiality of existence. A self of all selves, a soul of all souls, a spiritual substance of all substances, an impersonal, inexpressible existence, but at the same time, an illimitable person who is here self-represented in numberless personality, a master of knowledge, master of forces, lord of love and bliss and beauty, a single origin of the worlds, a self-manifester, self-creator, a cosmic spirit, universal mind, universal life, the conscious and living reality supporting the appearance which we sense as unconscious inanimate mind. A huge sentence, we'll have to go step by step. This is Srindra's synthetic view. Even his prose is synthetic. Not only his thinking, but also his prose. So on one side, okay, now that means there is another side also, which means there is a difference. He is aware of what? Now he is describing the personal aspect of the divine. He is aware of an infinite, self-existent Godhead. Now when we speak of personal, don't think that it is limited, because this person at the third level is infinite and eternal. Whereas normally when you experience the personal aspect of the divine, you see the divine in a certain form. So it is limited. But at the spirit, supramental level, this person is not limited anymore. He is a person, but he is not limited. Okay? So, and on one side he is aware of an infinite self-existent Godhead. Nobody has created him. He exists by himself in being. Okay, self-existent Godhead in being. Godhead means personal, who contains all things in an ineffable potentiality of existence. He contains all things, but he is personal, just like the seed. The seed also contains the whole tree in itself. A self of all selves, a soul of all souls, a spiritual substance of all substances. So when he's talking of the self of all selves, it's at level 2, no? Because you experience a self at level 2. But this consciousness, this person contains all the selves, the multiplicity of souls, and he himself is the master soul of all the souls. A soul of all souls. Now, soul of all souls is at the lower level because the soul is only in the lower level. No? So each soul is different. Your soul is different from mine. Okay? But when you go to level 2, you realize that they are essentially the same. Yet there is a difference. Just like the fruits of a tree are all separate but essentially the same. Okay? All mangoes on one tree are essentially the same. They taste the same, they have the same structure, they have the same, and yet individually they are different. So this is what you experience when you go to that. They get glimpses of the third level in the lower plane. A spiritual substance of all substances. So you see everything as substance. Note that, very interesting. Okay? It's a substance. It's a very, very subtle substance. An impersonal, inexpressible existence. Now he's talking about the impersonal. It's a personal, but he is also impersonal. Inexpressible existence. You can't describe it in mental terms. Inexpressible existence. And he's using the word existence. Remember, I told you there's a connection between existence and substance. Existence, Ravindra uses for the subtlest of substance. When that existence becomes gross, he uses the word matter or substance. Okay? So, wherever you see substance, but it is spiritual substance. So, you have to think of existence. Okay? An impersonal, inexpressible existence. But at the same time, an illimitable person. So he is an impersonal and yet a person, but that person is illimitable. Who is here? Impossible for the mind to understand this. No? A person is a person. How can he be? This is also what happened to Ramakrishna. No? In the beginning, he was only seeing the mother, her form, and he is talking to her, and he is also experiencing her, and there is a close connection between them. But then this Totapuri comes and tells him that this is not the only way to experience the divine. You have to go to the impersonal aspect. And then that whole story is there, which I have told you earlier also. He makes him concentrate in the forehead. And once finally, he is still seeing the form of the Divine Mother. He is saying, I am only seeing my mother, I can't see anything else. Then he tells, Totapuri tells him, he is a Jnani. Totapuri is a Advaitin. So he tells him, by the way, he was a Hindi-speaking Nangto, he used to call him, because he used to wear only a loincloth, okay, and wooden sandals and carry a kamandalu, okay. So he tells him, take the sword of knowledge, and when you are seeing your mother, you cut her into two, get rid of all form. And when he does that, his mind shoots up and gets beyond all form and goes into the formless. The description there in the book is Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Nirvikalpa, without any vikalpa, without any difference. He goes into the infinite, undivided consciousness. And he remains there for a long time. That's how he came to know the impersonal aspect of the divine. For Srivendra, it was the opposite. His beginning itself was impersonal aspect, the self. Later on in jail, he was experiencing Sri Krishna everywhere, and that was a different thing. So it was the opposite for Srivendra. He started from the upper, and Ramakrishna started from the lower. So this is what he is saying. So let me go back to the dynamic duality. The self of all souls, a spiritual substance of all substance, an impersonal, inexpressible existence. But at the same time, an illimitable person. Okay, who is here represented, self-represented, numberless personality. So, for Sri Aurobindo, level 2 first, then later on the level 3 where he is seeing Sri Krishna in the personal aspect, but he is also impersonal. Okay, whereas for Ramakrishna it was the personal aspect first, and then he started seeing him the impersonal aspect. Master of knowledge, master of forces, lord of love and bliss and beauty, a single origin of all the worlds. Now all this describes the Purushottama, the Ishvara, who is absolutely all powerful and does everything himself. He is the only thing that exists, the only one person that exists. Okay? If you look at each one, you will see what aspect is there. First of all, master of knowledge, therefore Chit. Then a master of forces, therefore Shakti. A lord of love, Ananda, and bliss and beauty. He is including three things in Ananda: love, bliss, and beauty. And if you see carefully, in the physical world, they always go together, na? Love, bliss, and beauty. When even at a normal human level, when you fall in love, you see the beauty and then you fall in love. And then there is an Ananda also. Okay. Or sometimes you see the beauty first and then fall in love. And there is Ananda. Okay. So in human relations, this experience of love can be very painful also. But at that highest level, it's not like that. Okay. So it is only love, bliss, and beauty. A single origin of the world. Note the word single. Advaita philosophy. Okay. Not the Sankhya and the other philosophies, not the Buddhist. A self-manifested. He has the power to manifest himself in the physical world. The seed has the power to manifest the tree. And self-creator. He is the one who creates himself. A cosmic spirit, a universal mind, a universal life, and a conscious living reality. So, he is everything. He is the mind, that means Chit. He is also the life, that is Shakti, and is also the Ananda. So, Satya Ananda in all the aspects, all the four aspects. Sat, Chit, Shakti, Ananda. At the lower level also, you see that he is the only one, but in four different ways. The conscious and living reality supporting the appearance which we sense as unconscious inanimate matter. We, at our level, we are seeing unconscious inanimate matter, but no, it is not self-existent inanimate matter, but it is being supported all the time by the Ishvara. If the Ishvara disappears, matter will disappear. When matter disappears, the Ishvara does not disappear. Spirit is always there. That's the fundamental reality. On the other side, now he is talking of the power side. On the other side, he is described in this huge sentence, the Purushottama. On the other side, he becomes aware of the same Godhead in effectuating consciousness. Note the word effectuating. That means it has an effect. That means it is dynamic. That means it has got power. Effectuating consciousness. It is not a consciousness that is static. It's an effectuating consciousness. The power to create and have effects. Effectuating consciousness and power put forth as a self-aware force that contains and carries all within her and is charged to manifest it in universal time and space. Universal time and space, level 1, very clearly. Okay? So, this Lord has got a power, and that power is also full of consciousness and knowledge. And it is charged, it has got the responsibility to create the world where? In universal time and space. He himself is not in universal, he is in the timeless and spaceless. But when manifestation takes place, it has to be in time and space, and there has to be movement. Okay? So this is the difference. Purusha at the highest level in a timeless and spaceless condition and formless. And when it comes down to manifestation, it's all the opposite. There is time, there is space, and there is also multiplicity, and there is form. Okay. It is evident to him that here there is a supreme and infinite being represented to us in two different sides of itself. obverse and reverse in relation to each other. It's like when you see somebody, okay, he can be very kind in many cases. There have been very interesting examples also in the ashram. Okay, I won't take names, but he could be very generous. Okay, but also very cruel, because that's the nature of the vital. Na? The vital can be very generous. Okay? You can give help to anybody in any so many ways. Okay, through money, through sympathy, for support. At the same time, you can be very cruel. You can even beat people. I think some of you know who I'm talking about. But anyway, so that also is possible. It's two aspects in the same person. It is evident to him that here there is, I spoke of kindness and cruelty, but in the Purushottama consciousness, it is power and stability. Okay, power to move, mutability and immutability. That's what you see. Both are there together. It is evident to him that there is one supreme and infinite being represented to us in two different sides of itself, obverse and reverse. Obverse and reverse is usually used for the coin. Okay, a 1 rupee coin or 2 rupee coin. Nowadays you have even 10 rupee coins, 5 rupee coins also are there, and one side is obverse and other side is reverse. Okay, so this is a coin is one, but you see two different aspects: Chit and Shakti, personal and impersonal. That's what Srila is saying. So it is evident to him that there is one supreme and infinite represented to us in two different sides of itself, obverse and reverse, in relation to each other. Now that's interesting. In relation to each other. Don't think of something higher and lower. Okay? If you consider one aspect, the other aspect is there. And if you consider this aspect, the other aspect is there. There is nothing like good and bad or higher and lower. There is a reality also in that, but you need not look at it in that way. Okay? Even the darkness is the aspect of the divine in one aspect, and the other is, for our convenience sake, we say that light is higher and the darkness is lower. It's okay for our convenience, but they are both two aspects of the divine. That's all. Okay? There is no higher and lower. There is no geometric dimensions in the divine. So all is so we come to the next sentence. All is either prepared or pre-existent in Godhead in being, like the seed. Okay, the seed contains all is there in it, issues from it, and is upheld by its will and presence. Okay. This is very interesting because he uses the same thing in other words. Okay, all his words when he's using, he expresses in different ways in different places. He says, okay, I'm reading the sentence and I'll tell you what he says elsewhere. All is brought out, number one, carried in movement by the Godhead in power. All becomes and acts and develops by her, and in her its individual and cosmic purpose. Okay, so what he's saying, all is either prepared or pre-existent Godhead in being and issues from it and is upheld by it. So, in other places he says, first of all you create and then you sort of take care of it, organize it, and then finally govern it in the lower. So it always refers back to the three levels. Level 1, you are creating. Level 2, you are present in it and guiding it. And in third level, you are governing it in the physical world. So there is a governance in the physical world also of the divine. Okay, it's very similar to when the government of India is preparing a project. For instance, there is a huge river and you have to build a bridge across it. So what they do, it can be done in several ways. The first way is you ask the contractor to build the bridge and hand over the bridge to you. I pay you the full amount. Finished. The builder has no more responsibility on the bridge. This is one way. But the other way is you ask the fellow to build the bridge and recover his costs by putting a toll gate. Okay, that's what is happening all over India nowadays. They recover the cost by the toll gate. Okay, and when that money has been recovered and his bill is paid, then the money goes to the government. So exactly in the same way, the divine is giving a contract in the physical world, then the physical world is being made, but he is also governing it. There are two ways of doing this. No? So this is, you don't create the world and let it do what it wants. You are governing it. Okay, that's what he's saying. So this, you can see the words here. He has used different words, but this idea you will see very often repeated in Life Divine also. He creates, he upholds, and finally governs. Okay, the upholding is in the universal, and governing is in the lower level, which is the instinct of animals. Okay, so creation, upholding, and governing. So that's exactly what he's saying here. If you see, it seems to be only words, but it's not like that. Okay, you have to go beyond the words and see what he's saying. Just 1 second. Yeah, I got it. Yeah. So he's saying all is either prepared or pre-existing to the body. So it is prepared and it is created. Issues from it. It is upheld by its will and presence, and finally brought out and carried forward in movement, and it governs it. All becomes and acts and develops by her, and in her its individual or cosmic purpose. The divine creates the cosmos and charges it to create the many in the cosmos. So it is the Purusha who is ordering Prakriti to govern the universe. So the Purusha does not govern directly. He tells his own power to create the world and govern it. That's the reason why when you go to the self, you realize that you are not doing anything. It is universal nature which is doing in you. You are not the doer at all. Okay? So all becomes an action developed by her in her individual cosmic purpose. It is again a duality necessary for the manifestation. Why? Because if you have only knowledge and no power, how are you going to create? And if you have only power and no knowledge, you will be creating chaotic things. So there you need a power, you need a plan, and then you need the capacity to create it. So both are necessary for manifestation. Just as in the physical world, it's very easy to understand. Okay? So it's again a duality necessary for the manifestation. Both are necessary, consciousness as well as force. Creating and enabling that double current of energy which seems always necessary for the world working. Two poles of the same being, but here closer to each other and always very evidently carrying each the powers of the other in its essence and its dynamic nature. Both are there in essence as well as dynamic nature. Both are involved in each other. Okay? In the essence, the power is there, and in the dynamic nature, the essence is there. Chit is there in Shakti, and Shakti is there in Chit. At the same time, by the fact that the two great elements of the divine mystery, the personal and the impersonal, are here fused together at the third level. The seeker of the integral truth feels in the duality of Ishvara Shakti his closeness to a more intimate and ultimate secret of the divine transcendence and the manifestation than that offered to him by any other experience. That is the reason why in the integral yoga you are always asked to submit to the divine mother, okay, the power aspect. Submit to her and she will do everything for you. That's the interesting part. Whereas in the, of course, this principle is followed in the Tantra also. They worship the divine mother. They go through the power aspect. In the Jnana Yoga, they don't do that. They go through the knowledge aspect, static condition. Okay? So, so many different ways of doing this. Right? So, it is now 8:31. We have got 4 minutes. We can, I think, read the next one because it's a continuation of the same subject, Ishvara Shakti. This level 3, the Superman. So let's read that. I think we can finish it. We can read. It's about a page, so we can read it. So, for the Ishvara Shakti, who will read? Anyone? Quickly decide and let's read it. Soki, can read if she is there.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead, read it. For the Ishvara Shakti. Ishvari
O the,
Shakti. Yeah.
o the Ishvari Shakti, divine consciousness, and word mark becomes a mediatrix between the eternal one and the manifested many. On one side, the play of the energies which she brings from the one, she manifests the multiple divine in the universe, involving and evolving. Its endless appearances out of her revealing substance. On the other, by the reascending current of the same energies, she leads back all towards that from which they have issued, so that the soul in its evolutionary manifestation may more and more return towards the divinity there or here, put on its divine character. There is not in her. Altogether she devises a cosmic mechanism, the character of an inconscient mechanical executrix, which we find in the first physiognomy of Prakriti, the nature force. Neither is there that sense of an unreality, creatrix of illusion or semi-illusions, which is attached to our first view of Maya. It is at once clear to the experiencing soul that here is a conscious power of one substance and nature with the supreme, from whom she came. If she seems to have plunged us into the ignorance and inconscience in pursuance of a plan we cannot yet interpret, if her forces present themselves as all these ambiguous forces of the universe, yet it becomes visible before long that she is working for the development of the divine consciousness in us, and that she stands above, drawing us to her own higher entity, revealing to us more and more the very essence of the divine knowledge, will, and ananda. Even in the movements of the ignorance, the soul of the seeker becomes aware of her conscious guidance, supporting his steps, leading them slowly or swiftly, straight or by many detours out of the darkness into the light of a greater consciousness, out of mortality into immortality, out of evil and suffering towards the highest good and felicity of which as yet his human mind can form only a faint image. Thus, her power is at once liberative and dynamic, creative, effective. Creative not only of things as they are, but of things that are to be. For eliminating the twisted and tangled movement of his lower consciousness, made of the stuff of the ignorance, it reveals and remakes his soul and nature into the substance and force of a higher divine nature.
Yeah. So this we will do next time. Okay. When we next Tuesday we'll take up this para. So he is saying what he said here we'll take up. And I have made a note of it already on the chat. So it is already 8:35. So we stop here today. Okay. So I wish everybody au revoir and
Bonjourne
have a nice
Rangada.
day. Yeah. Okay.
Bonjourne Rangada. Merci.
Yeah, same to all of you.
Merci beaucoup.
Okay, Yasmin.